Hello to everyone who is joining in. My name is David Faree. I'm an admissions counselor here at CSU. Now, normally when you're tuning in, we usually are on our main campus, but today we are at actually the Powerhouse Energy campus here in Fort Collins, and we're going to learn a little bit more about today in engineering and all of the things that you can do with an engineering degree. But let's head on inside because it is real cold out here. So as I walk behind backwards and try not to trip, I just want to tell you a little bit that today you're going to have the opportunity to talk with our Associate Dean here at our Walter Scott Jr. College of Engineering, Dr. Dr Marchese. Now, when you get to the talking points, we're going to have a chance for you to ask him questions. So please feel free to type them in and I'll do my best to read them along. But before that, let's go inside. So I learned today that this building actually used to be the power plant for Fort Collins. This building is about 5 years old, and so there's doing a lot of cool stuff here. So as we go into the atrium, there's a lot that I want to show you, but specifically, I want to show you the Rapid Prototyping and Applied Engineering Laboratory. There's a lot of cool things in here, specifically the ping pong table. But more cool than that is actually our CSU EcoCar. CSU EcoCar is a competition that students get to partake in where they need to take the engine out of this Chevy and make it 100% sustainable. Not only that, they also can't compromise 1 degree on performance or safety, and they will actually even race other cars in the competition, as we are one of 20 other schools who are in this contest. So as we keep walking around, I want you just to get an idea and start picturing yourself here. For those of us who are tinkerers at heart, this is where you can come. This is an example of what you'll do. Now, as we keep walking along, you can start to see a good idea of the renovations of. I think we had a poor connection. I think we're back. I hope so. So we're actually going in here where we're going into what we call the coal bunker, room 123. It's called the coal bunker because actually it used to be filled with coal. Because again, this used to be an old power plant for the city of Fort Collins. But now we're joined here by Dr. Dr. Marchese. We are so excited to have you all here today. So now is when students, you can start joining in your questions, start writing them in as you go. But before you do that, Dr. Marchese, would you like to just share a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, sure. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs here at the Walter Scott Jr. College of Engineering. And I'm also a mechanical engineering professor, and when I'm not doing associate dean related things, I actually work out here and do research here at the Powerhouse Energy campus.
Oh, that is awesome. What do you do research on?
Well, I do research on internal combustion engines. This is actually part of the Powerhouse Energy campus. It consists of the Engines and Energy Conversion Laboratory, and this is one of the larger engine research facilities in the country that we have here at Colorado State University. And I study the combustion that goes on inside the engine. So that's kind of my expertise.
I know some of those words. So I guess my first question would be, what can you do with a degree in engineering?
Well, you can do just about anything with a degree in engineering. That's why it's such an exciting degree path. I mean, if you look around the world, everything that you can see that's made by a human being was most likely designed or developed by an engineer. So whether that's the car that you drive in, or the bridge that you drive your car over, or the chair that you're sitting in, or the iPhone in your pocket, that was most likely designed and developed by a team of engineers.
So how many degrees are there at CSU that have to do with engineering, and how do I pick one?
Well, that's a good question. I would have to count. I know we just went through accreditation, and we got accredited in 8 separate engineering programs, and so I guess you would say there are at least 8 different degrees that one could choose from, and then there are actually concentrations in these different degrees, and so there's probably 20 different flavors that one could choose in engineering at CSU.
Awesome. Well, I see a lot of folks have joined, so again, if you have any questions, just start typing them in. My question that I get quite a bit is a mechanical engineering degree. If I wanted to really work on engines, is that where I would go? Would I study that major, or I could do other ones?
Most likely. I mean, the thing is, nowadays, all engineering systems are so complex that you have many different types of engineers working on a particular system or problem. So, you know, the engine in your car was designed by mechanical engineers, but also has electrical engineers and computer engineers and software engineers and perhaps even chemical engineers. But generally speaking, the type of students that find themselves interested in things like engines, that typically would be mechanical engineering.
So we just got our first question, and it's, do I need to be good at math and science?
Well, yes. I mean, basically, math and science is one of the many tools that engineers use in terms of the tools of the trade, right? So, of course, a lot of people get interested in engineering because they like to build stuff, and a lot of students in high school may have gotten involved with some really interesting competitions where they got to build robots or this or that, and so we do get to do a lot of that, which is fun, but we also use science and math to help design the things that we build. So yeah, one has to use math. I wouldn't say that you have to be a genius in math. I wasn't really that great a high school student when it came to math and science, but it is important to take as much math and science as you can in high school, and since you will have to take classes like physics and calculus and things like that as you study engineering. So my advice to any high school student would be to definitely take as many math and science classes as you can and work hard at it, but you don't have to be a genius.
Okay, so this next question is, what kind of classes do you take?
In engineering, so when you first start out, the very first year, you will take a lot of math and science classes, but also we have engineering classes in each discipline. So your very first semester here, you will take an engineering class, and so if you're studying mechanical engineering, you'll take Mech 103, which is the introductory mechanical engineering class. Then as you progress through the curriculum, I mean, every semester you'll be taking a lot of different engineering classes, and many of those classes have laboratories associated with them, and a lot of those laboratories are kind of fun. So if you like to build stuff, and mechanical engineering in sophomore year, you'll actually get into the machine shop and learn how to actually machine things, and then you learn how to use different software tools to analyze things, and then the most fun is senior year, where students get to take their senior capstone design, and this is a year-long project where you get to apply everything that you learned for the first 3 or 4 years and apply it to a real-world problem. And we have some students that work 40 hours a week on their senior capstone design project, not because they have to, but because it's fun and they want to. And those projects, a lot of them are funded by industry. So we have projects that are funded by, companies like, Caterpillar or John Deere or Cummins, here at the Engines Lab. We have projects that are funded by New Belgium Brewing Company here in town, or Otterbox, or various companies.
Awesome. We had another question. Are there scholarships for engineering here at CSU?
Yeah, we have a lot of scholarships. So in addition to the sort of merit-based scholarships that one might get right when they get admitted to CSU, we have another $2 million per year worth of scholarships in engineering. And one of the great things about my job in my office is we're the ones that give out the scholarships. And so one of our most exciting scholarships is what we call the Walter Scott Junior Undergraduate Scholarship. So these are 20 scholarships per year that were funded by Walter Scott Jr., who is an alumnus of the program, and that has enabled us to really recruit and retain the top students in the country. And then we have other need-based scholarships, for those that, like myself, when I was going to school, I mean, it was a challenge financially, and so we have scholarships that are need-based as well. And then we have scholarships that are based on some of your interests. So we have donors that want to provide a scholarship for somebody who maybe was an Eagle Scout or something in high school. So one of the things when you're applying to CSU, you want to apply for scholarships right away. Some of those scholarships are available freshman year, and then other scholarships, for sophomore, junior, etc.
Awesome. Another question that we got asked: are there clubs and groups that I can join?
Yeah, well, so one of the great things about Colorado State University in general, a large comprehensive university with a great college town, is that there is a club for everybody, or an activity for everybody. And so some of those might be based on some of your interests, like maybe you like rock climbing or this or that, and then we have clubs based on the discipline that you might be studying. So in mechanical engineering, we have professional societies like American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and so that's what we call professional society, and they work on projects related to mechanical engineering. And then we have clubs that are based on, like for example, we have our RAM Rocketry Club. So that's something that I am involved with. So students who are interested in rockets, and they design and build and launch rockets. Yeah, I can go on. There are a lot of clubs one could join.
So at the beginning of my tour, I try to give a brief overview of CSU EcoCar. Can you help fill in the details a little bit about what this is?
Yeah, so a lot of the projects that we work on are what we call competition-based projects, where we actually compete against other universities, either in the U.S. or internationally. And I mentioned briefly the rocket competition, or our rocket club. So that's a competition that we compete against 120 other universities in the world. And EcoCar is another competition-based project, and that one's really, I would say, one of our most ambitious and prestigious projects that we compete in. So EcoCar, we compete against approximately 20 other schools in the country, and basically the team gets a brand new car right as it rolls off the assembly line. I think this year, I forget what it was. Last time it was a Chevy Camaro, and this one I forget what it is. But anyway, they get this vehicle, and they have essentially 3 years to completely gut the vehicle and rebuild it in a way to maximize the fuel economy and minimize the greenhouse gas emissions. And so year one is kind of the students decide what they're going to do in terms of how they're going to redesign the car, and then year two they actually implement it, and then year three they compete against other universities to see who can do the best.
That's awesome. We have a couple questions about visiting. So I could answer it from the general admissions visit, but do you all do specific visits for engineering?
Absolutely, yeah. So definitely I would encourage you, if you're going to visit CSU and you're interested in engineering, even if you think maybe you can't decide between engineering and something else, then I encourage you to do the general admissions tour, but then do our engineering tour as well. And so you can go to the Colorado State University engineering website, and you can click on a button and sign up for a tour. And so that tour, it typically tours the laboratories and facilities on the main campus. And if you're really interested, I almost never turn down a personal tour. So I typically, once a week or twice a month, I'm giving tours here at the Powerhouse. So, for example, you're interested in energy or engines or anything related to renewable energy or whatever you can think of, and we can schedule it, then I'd be happy to give you a tour around here as well.
And then one question, is it too early for a student who is a 9th grader in high school to come and do a tour?
I don't think it's ever too early. So the other thing I should mention, we do something called Engineering Exploration Day. We usually do it in the fall and in the spring. And this is on a Saturday where we invite, about 500 people to campus, about 200 or 300 students and parents. And we often get 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Usually 10th and 11th grade is kind of the sweet spot, but we would never turn anybody away. The earlier the better. We also encourage people to, not just visit CSU. We basically say, hey, if you're interested in engineering, definitely come and see us at CSU, but visit the other universities as well. And after you visit everywhere else, come back. And if this is the right place for you, we definitely want you here. And so, starting early is a great idea.
Awesome. I'm going to turn it around just because, Jesse, I saw some of your questions. So, Jesse, in regards to questions for tours for all STEM majors, the College of Natural Sciences is where a lot of our STEM majors are housed. What I would encourage you to do is reach out to your admissions counselor first. Every student is assigned an admissions counselor based off of where they're coming from. Reach out to them and express your interest about setting up a specific major visit, and they'll be able to help you out to get more specifics. All right, Dr. Marchese, back to you. Next question for you is, where have some of our CSU engineering graduates gone off to work?
Oh, boy. I mean, I could probably name 100 companies here. So now is a great time to be an engineer, and probably not just CSU, but nationally. CSU, just to give you some idea, 95% of our students within 6 months of graduation had reported that they had a job this year. And that job includes either working for industry, or we would also, some of them would go to graduate school to get an advanced degree. So we have nearly 100% employment. And that's one of the great things about engineering, just in general. So some of the companies, locally, the economy here in Colorado, aerospace economy is very strong here. So a lot of our students will go to work for aerospace companies, for example, Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or United Launch Alliance. I've had some of my own students have gone to work for SpaceX and Blue Origin, some of the companies that you hear about. We've had students go to work for Tesla. In terms of locally, some of the local companies, Woodward is a large employer here in town that hires a lot of our students. Otterbox, I mentioned. New Belgium Brewing Company, I mentioned. I can go on. So if you name a major corporation that sounds like they do engineering-related work, they probably have a CSU graduate. I mentioned Cummins and Caterpillar are large engine manufacturers. We literally have 60 alumni, engineering alumni that work at Cummins, for example.
So you had mentioned space.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking through our CSU majors, and I don't see aerospace engineering. So what do I pick?
That's a really good question. So that I often get that question. I'm interested in aerospace. Should I major in aerospace as an undergrad, or should I major in mechanical engineering or something else? And so that's correct. At CSU, we don't have aerospace engineering as an undergraduate degree. But I would say that when you think about the career, you want to think about what sector of the economy you might work in, as opposed to what you might be working on a day-to-day basis. So if you're interested in, for example, the aerospace industry, the aerospace industry hires as many mechanical engineers and electrical engineers, probably more mechanical engineers and electrical engineers than they do aerospace engineers, right? So I would say mechanical engineering is a great first degree to work in the aerospace industry. In fact, my undergraduate degree is mechanical engineering. My PhD degree is in mechanical and aerospace engineering, and I worked in the aerospace field. So again, if you're interested in, for example, rockets or propulsion, that's generally a mechanical engineering thing, right? So it's a great degree for that. If you're interested in control systems, on how you actually control a space vehicle or an airplane, there's a lot of electrical and computer engineering and software in that. If you're interested in the airframes, essentially the actual frame of the aircraft, that's actually civil engineering, believe it or not.
I did not know all of that. All right, I'm going to turn it around again. We got another question. This one is from Autumn Wolf. First of all, that is an amazing Insta handle. So your question about what does it take to get into CSU as an out-of-state student. So anytime that we have an applicant here at CSU, we are looking for college readiness. What that means is that we want to have the confidence that as soon as you step into the classroom here at CSU, you're going to be successful. Now, I can give you some of the hard statistics. So on average, our students were coming in between a 3.3 to a 4.0 GPA, a 23 to a 29 ACT, and an 1100 to a 1300 SAT. We super score both exams if you do take it more than once, and we also look at what classes you've taken in high school. So have you taken honors or AP or dual enrollment? All of that is going to make a big difference. So lots of ways to be admitted to CSU, and I hope that answers your question. Dr. Marchese, back to you.
Can I just add to that?
Yes, of course.
Those stats there. So a lot of times we have students who might be just a little bit low on the SAT score, a little bit low on the GPA, compared to those numbers. And but what we would say is you want to apply anyway, okay? Because we do holistic review, and for students who are kind of a little bit low on one of the metrics versus the other, our goal is to try to get you here if we think you can succeed. So don't get hung up if you think you're a little bit low. I would say, take the SAT or the ACT a second time, and typically people do a lot better the second time than the first time, and so we do want to get you here. The other thing is, some students don't quite meet the bar for admission to engineering, and they come in as undeclared. There's a pathway to transfer into engineering once you get here. I would say my own personal story, I wanted to study engineering, and I didn't get accepted into engineering at the university that I applied to. So, and I didn't even have the nerve to tell my parents. They didn't know any better. So I went there anyway, and so it took me a year, but I transferred into engineering, and everything worked out fine.
Awesome. Got another question. So I'm a current CSU engineering student. How do I find internships, and what are available?
Yeah, so I don't know the specific numbers, but just about all of our students in engineering will end up doing at least one internship. Some of them do internships every semester, every year after their freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. Most students do an internship after their sophomore and junior year. And some of the same companies that I mentioned hire interns as well. One thing I also should mention is that we do a career fair here on campus twice per year. We get about 100 companies that come here right to our campus to hire our students. And those companies are here to hire both permanent employees and interns. We have another thing called cooperative education, which is sort of like an internship on steroids. And so that's really exciting. This is where in the middle of your college career, you actually will work 3 semesters for a company and get paid quite well. So typically a student might go to work for the company during their second semester sophomore year, stay with the company through that summer, and then go back to work for that company again the third year. And so that's like an internship, but it's even better because you're there for an even longer duration with the company.
Awesome. So there's another question, and it's from Peyton Freeman. Peyton, I was hoping you could elaborate just a little bit. So Peyton got a letter, but I'm not sure exactly what that means. So hopefully, Peyton, you can give a little bit more context. But there's also another question more about Instagram Lives, of if we in the admissions office are going to be doing more Instagram Lives with other faculty members in different majors. We work on it. So I'll turn this around, Dr. Marchese. I feel bad just talking at you. We work on it. We always try and do these based on interest. So if you like these, let us know, and we would be happy to see what other majors we would love to hear back from. So, Dr. Marchese, because we are running out of time, so again, if you have any questions regarding engineering, I want you to be sure to send them in now. But one question that I get asked a lot, and maybe it's not the most important, but it still is on people's minds. Do engineers get paid a lot?
Yes. Particularly in terms of sort of the entry-level salary, right? So, it is something that one wants to think about. You put a lot of time and effort into your college education, and, the last thing you want to do is be in debt for many years afterwards. And so one of the great things about engineering, and the great thing about CSU, is that you will not be in a lot of debt. One, because, CSU is not as expensive as many other places, but also you'll be able to get a nice salary from day one. So, average salary, I'm not sure across the board for engineering right now with a bachelor's degree, it's probably around $65,000. That's starting, right? So that's a 22-year-old getting out there making $65,000 a year. We had, and it varies with the different majors. Right now, computer engineering is demanding, the highest salary among the different majors. We had a chemical engineering graduate last year, a young woman who got offered $100,000 for an entry-level job. That was the highest salary that I've heard here at CSU. So yes, pay is really good, and then the career advancement is even better. So that's your entry-level salary, but the engineering is such a good first degree for moving up through the corporation and getting into management, and your salary will just increase from there.
Awesome. One person asked, how can I get info about the Engineer Day thing?
So that was the Engineering Exploration Day, right? So let's think about it. So it is, the next one will probably be in February-ish. So I'm not sure if we have a date yet, but on the engineering website, as soon as that day is announced, it will be on the Colorado State University's engineering website, front and center, and you'll be able to go in there and register. So stay tuned for that. In fact, if you reach out to us, that date may already have been announced, but I'm not sure what it is.
Awesome. Ooh, this is a good question. Someone is interested in engineering, but they're wondering is if they are too old to go into engineering. And they're wondering, is it too late to get a jump start into that career?
So for let's say what we would call a non-traditional student?
Yeah.
So I would say absolutely not. We have a lot of folks who come back and get a second degree, right? So I know people who are English majors, and they worked for 5-10 years in the field, and they got interested in engineering, and they came back and got an engineering degree. So it's never too late. And then of course we have a lot of folks who maybe do community college. They maybe get an associate's degree, work for 10 years, and then they want to get the engineering degree. So no, it's never too late, particularly if you're passionate about engineering, because it really is a good career, and it's really worthwhile.
Awesome. So you had mentioned community college. Let's talk about that, because I have many students who are thinking about that as a first step, maybe to save some money, and then they want to transfer into CSU. Would you recommend maybe a specific degree at a community college or certain courses to focus in on?
Yeah, so just like I said, for like in high school, you want to take your math and science, right? So, if you're thinking engineering, then, all of the community colleges have some technology-related associate's degrees, right? As an aside, we're working closely now with the community colleges within the next year or so, where we're going to roll out what we call a statewide articulation agreement, to where one could go to any community college, get the 2-year degree there, and seamlessly transfer here as a junior. We're starting out with mechanical engineering, and then we're going to move on to some of the others. Anyway, we're not quite there yet. But so what you're going to want to look for at the community college is to look at their technical degree and make sure you take your calculus and your physics, and then there's going to be some of the other sort of sophomore level engineering classes that one could take. And so you kind of want to load up on that, so that when you get here to CSU, you can kind of hit the ground running in your engineering degree. I'll tell you that students who transfer here from community college, they actually do better in engineering than the students who come in as freshmen. The students are a little bit more mature. They've got their math and science out of the way. The other nice thing about community college is that the class sizes are typically smaller. So for some, taking a calculus class with 20 students is a better way for them to learn than taking a larger class that you might have here at CSU. So we're all for going the community college route if it's the best choice for you and your family.
Awesome. Another question. So how quickly can you get an engineering job while working on a bachelor's? And this person is, what sort of entry-level work does it look like to have as an engineer?
So quickly, during college, or as I mentioned before, there are opportunities for internships and cooperative education where you can work for a company even before you graduate. And then, the majority of our students, remember I mentioned that 95% of our students report that they have a job within 6 months of graduation. And without seeing the numbers, I would say the majority of those students have that job lined up before they leave the doors here, right, before they graduate. So some companies are here in the fall of senior year recruiting students. Some students have a job lined up by October of their senior year, even though they're not graduating until May, right? And then others will get that job offer maybe in March or April. But I would say the majority of our students have that job lined up before they even leave. And then some of our students take a little bit longer. I talked about senior design. Some of our students are so engaged in their senior design project that literally they don't have time to look for a job. I had a student last year who was on the rocket team. His name is Wyatt Bryan. He was the place kicker for Colorado State University football team. In fact, the leading all-time scorer in Colorado State University history. So he was concentrating on football in the fall and then concentrating on a senior design project in the spring. Didn't really have a chance to even look for a job until June, and now he's working for Blue Origin, one of the top rocket companies in the country.
That's awesome. So we are about out of time. So before you go, I want to say, is there any words of advice you could give a student who maybe is thinking about coming into engineering? What would that be?
Well, I guess two things. One is engineering is a fantastic degree. I would say everything that I've been able to accomplish in my career, I can really trace back to getting that bachelor's degree in engineering. So, and I literally have never met somebody who said, I regretted majoring in engineering. I mean, you just don't hear that because there's so many opportunities to what you can do. I mean, you'll hear people say, gosh, that was really hard. But you'll never hear people say, I regret that choice. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you are admissible to engineering and maybe you're only 50 to 75% sure that that's the career for you, then I always recommend apply to engineering. Because it's much easier to transfer from engineering to another major than it may be to transfer from the other major to engineering. So when in doubt, it's not a bad idea to apply to engineering. And one could start out in engineering and then transfer if it's not for them, or even before they even get here to campus, as they continue to explore, one could always change their major. But the thing about engineering is some of these majors are controlled, which means that if you don't apply early, some years we have a cap. We only can admit a certain amount of students to, let's say, mechanical engineering. So if you're admissible to mechanical engineering, apply now, get admitted, and then you could always decide to switch later.
Awesome. I know there are other questions out there, but unfortunately, we do have to part ways. Engineering Visit Day is a great way to get some more questions answered. Dr. Anthony Marchese, Associate Dean of the Walter Scott Jr. College of Engineering, thank you so much for hanging with us today, and go Rams. Thank you all. Take care.